As far as I'm concerned, from what I've listened to in the evidence, Samura is not a building contractor. The others are officers at the embassy. The question was, how was this money utilized or whatever? Honestly, as I say so with a lot of respect, if it was me, I would not go to New York. I don't think it's necessary to go to. How can you, the fact that you show, first of all, they should have shown what the building was like before they went there. What was the status of that building? You should have an architect or a building contractor say, this was the building. Later on, this was why we gave money to put the building. Honestly, as I said, I don't know whether that is transparency. Yes, some people have never been to America, so it's good to show them.
This Wake Up Sierra Leone, in our first segment this morning, the High Court Judge, Honorable Justice Adrian Fisher, the Anti-Corruption Commissioner Francis Ben Kaifala, and other parties in the anti-corruption case, the State vs. Saiduna Law and others, including the APC flag bearer, Dr. Samura Kamara, and his lawyers last week, Thursday and Friday, visited the Sierra Leone UN Mission Chancery building in New York. The visit is in connection with the alleged misappropriation of public funds to the tune of $4.9 million United States dollars meant for the reconstruction of the Chancery building. So this morning, to discuss this and other issues in the studio, we have been joined by a renowned and very senior lawyer, Lawyer Francis Gabidon, a senior legal practitioner in the country. And also on Zoom, we'll be joining El Cassano, the Director of Communications, Judiciary of Sierra Leone. Good morning, Mr. Gabidon, and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
What seems unprecedented is, with the coverage of this matter from the court here in Freetown to New York. As someone who's been in this for over 40 years or so, what does this mean for justice in Sierra Leone?
Well, as you said, it's unprecedented, because I've been in the profession now for over 50 years, and I don't know of any situation like this. I was not in court. I don't know why the judge gave that order. I honestly don't know what is the relevance of going to New York, because I think it's a case that does not have to do with New York. But probably the judge has reasons, whether it has to do with the construction of the building or not. I saw something on video on Saturday, but the judge and some of the lawyers were outside the building arguing. I honestly don't know. I don't know whether it was necessary or not. I was not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer in that case. Honestly, I don't know what is the rationale behind going to New York. That's my honest view.
The openness. I was in court the other day when Honorable Justice Adrian Fisher was saying this is about transparency. This is about letting the public understand what is happening in court, because the matter is a public interest matter based on one of the individuals who is involved in it. Does this mean the judiciary is opening itself up to public scrutiny, and that is how it should be?
Well, it is possible, but I've seen other cases inside. I've been involved in cases when we don't have to leave the jurisdiction. You don't need to go to New York to show transparency. I mean, I don't know whether that case, because if you're talking about the way the building was before and whether this repairs was done or not, probably, then they must call an engineer or somebody who saw the building before, and whether there was repairs done or not. I honestly don't know whether there is any justification. That's not transparency. Because what I saw was they were outside the building. What I saw, they were not inside the building. They were outside. I know that building in New York. I saw the lawyers and I saw the judge outside the building. So, and I don't know what was being said. I heard a few things, but
we are trying to get the video of the honorable judges, so you can.
I don't know what was the reason for them going to New York. That's my honest view.
Did they call it locus? Is that how they call it?
Yes, but not that. Yes, you do. Look, if there is a land case, for example, two people are quarreling over land, for example, the boundary, you have this boundary, you can go to the locus. There is a road accident, yes, but a locus in New York, I don't know. As I say, I stand to be corrected.
You know, Lamana, you made mention of the fact that transparency was one of the motives, you know, in all of this. So what baffles me again is that the funds, the money that was used to go again to New York and spend, if it's transparency, shouldn't we not be curbing and trying to save finances in those areas? So, Lawyer Gabidon, in all of these areas, in terms of the precedents rather that is been set, you know, what do you think it has to be in terms of when it goes to other cases? Do you think, yes, this is the right platform to do so?
There is nothing wrong with transparency, except if, for example, they had an engineer with them or a contractor who would show, or probably who knew the building before and would say, this was what the building was like. It was a dilapidated building. It was going out of repairs. We gave money for certain repairs. I mean, probably that would make sense. Yeah, I can understand. But as I say, I did not see anything like that. I saw them standing outside the building. They were arguing. So I don't know what is the transparency there. As I said, I'm not criticizing. I don't know what was the purpose of them going to New York. I did not understand.
Okay.
That's all I can tell you.
We have on screen now, let's take quickly some highlights of what happened in New York. Then we'll get you, again, we're still trying to get to El Casano via Zoom. As we understand, he's still in the US, to speak to him on some of these issues. Let's take the highlights.
Evidence, you leave gaps, you only have yourselves to blame. Let us ignore the banter outside, let us ignore the comments outside and focus on why we're here, which is to make sure we have a proper viewing of this building, and then we determine how to proceed when we leave and get back to it out. That said, let us be mindful about what we say, because at the end of the day, we have people who are listening and watching actions that council generally carry out, and then they use that as gospel to misbehave. You know, and at the end of it all, we do not want our profession to delegate into what we see outside. So let's be mindful of that. You know, you're all professionals here, very senior people. Let us be above board. Let's be above what is happening outside. So what has been said so far, I bear it in mind. I don't think I need to give a ruling on it, because it's an issue which I think everybody here knows that they have a duty to maintain the rule of our profession. That said, rest assured that I am not listening to what is said. My focus is on the evidence. I think all the rulings I've given so far have been based upon the law and the evidence, and I will continue to do that. All right? So, yes. I believe this is a matter for you as well to take a note of in terms of the evidence that is going to give in the court. So, but in fairness to him, I need to caution him that there's a possibility that that might happen. If you want to take that risk, there's a matter for them. So that's just going to be understandable.
Issues. They went into the building, they visited some areas and actually watched the status of the old building. But I want to ask, you know, in a matter like this, what does this mean, you know, especially with one of the individuals who is involved in it is already a flag bearer for the main opposition party, who will be contesting in the June 24th elections, based on how the matter perhaps might go. What does it mean for the openness in it all?
As I said to you, there is nothing wrong with opening the court. The man who was giving the contract, the American, he refused to appear before the court. He did not go. He should have come to Sierra Leone. To me, if it was a building contract, if, for example, I give you a contract to build or to repair, and I'm not satisfied with what you've done, then probably we can visit the locals to say, this was what was the state of the building. We have not seen any improvement. We've given you so much money. Nothing has been done, whatever has been done. As far as I'm concerned, from what I've listened to in the evidence, Samura is not a building contractor. The others are officers at the embassy. The question was, how was this money utilized or whatever? Honestly, as I say so with a lot of respect, if it was me, I would not go to New York. I don't think it's necessary to go to. How can you, the fact that you show, first of all, they should have shown what the building was like before they went there. What was the status of that building? You should have an architect or a building contractor say, this was the building. Later on, this was why we gave money to put the building. This honestly, as I said, I don't know whether that is transparency. Yes, some people have never been to America, so it's good to show them. In fact, that's a bad whatnot of our building. It showed our building are deteriorated. But we've had cases before. The High Commission in London, our cases, they did not go to London. I'm saying it's not necessary. That's my view. I'm not criticizing anybody. For me, it was not necessary. That's all I say. Transparency just to see inside the building. What about the architect? What about the building contractor? Who will tell us what the building was like? Now look at the building, it has deteriorated. You spent the money on something. I honestly cannot. To me, the best person to give that evidence should have been an engineer or architect that they took to America, or the man himself who's involved, who was given the contract. He refused to face the court. He refused to come to Sierra Leone. Yeah, I've forgotten his name.
Sanders, he's Sanders.
Yeah, well,
Sanders.
that's the man you need. That's the man you need.
Will these visits have any influence on the case? One of the lawyers, one of the lawyers, I think the lawyers for Dr. Samura Kamara, were arguing that, this was not the state of how the building was some 2 years ago when it was closed down and when the case was taken to court. Will it have any influence on...
No, because they did not take Samura there for failure to repair a building. As I say, I don't know. Justice Fisher is a very good judge. But that's my own view is, what does that prove, that state of the building? Why didn't they show what the building was like before? Why didn't they get an engineer, an architect, somebody to tell us that this is not a question of a building contract? The question was, the allegation is that this man squandered money, which was given for that. That is what you have to go and prove to me. I don't know, as I say, I don't know the necessity for them going to New York. I'm ready to defend it anytime, even if Fisher is here. I know Fisher very well. It's my colleague, I know, but that's my view. My view is it's unnecessary. It doesn't prove anything.
You don't think it will have any influence?
I don't think so.
Lamana, in terms
that's my view, my personal view. What does it prove? We have seen a dilapidated building. So what? What was the status of that building before? Somebody should come and tell us. Why didn't they bring the building contractor, the man who was given that contract? They paid somebody a lot of money. He refused to come to court. Let them come and tell us, people of Sierra Leone, open up the place. This was the state of the building before. I received so much. This was what was done, or this was not. To me, that makes sense. But these are not people who are contractors or engineers. They're all lawyers. They're taken to New York. As I said, I don't know what it was. If that is transparency, fine.
Okay, thank you. In terms of moving forward, if there's any possibility that, as you rightly mentioned, that engineers or architects will be brought into this, you think that will be a step in the right direction?
It could help, yes. If you can show an engineer or architect, well, yes. Because the question was, money was given to repair, and this money was squandered. Isn't that what they're saying? They say money was given because the building was falling apart. That's the impression I get, that money was squandered. But they have to prove that XYZ squandered money, it was given for this. You have to lead the evidence. So it's no use just opening the building in New York for Sierra Leoneans to see it. I honestly, as I say so with respect to the judge, I don't think it's necessary. That's my view. You can quote me any day.
They are listening to you, so
they can listen to me.
Yeah, they're watching.
I know them all. Yeah. Some of them I taught at law school.
Okay.
Yes.
I suppose you must have been following this matter, this case in court, and
to some extent.
To some extent.
No, I've not been following it. I have a lot of work to do. I'm not going to spend all my time listening to a case like this. Yes.
So what's your perception about this case? Considering the fact that it's already involves someone who is a flag bearer for a political party and who possibly will be contesting in the election.
Well, is he the only one who's involved? That's the point. Because from the evidence I was listening to, I don't think he was, from what I heard. So you have to get all the parties who were involved. We're talking about one person now. What about other names that have been called? Yes, listen, go and look at the transcript.
Yes, I'm asking...
Well, that's one that has been involved. Yes. But what about, get the full transcript.
Does his status have anything
No,
to do with this case?
If you thief money, your status doesn't matter. The accusation was that money was squandered or was not used for that purpose. Some of them were officers working at the embassy. One person was a foreign minister. Are these the only people who are involved? If somebody, that's why I said it would have been better if somebody was qualified as an engineer, an architect. That's my view. To me now, this is open. What do I gain from seeing that? I have seen our embassies abroad. The one in London, it nearly fell apart until the British people said, if you don't take action, we'll seize the building from you. No one was falling apart because we don't repair our buildings over the years. So I know we have a bad record on who we treat our buildings.
Like I was asking earlier about, the personality that is involved in this matter. I was in court the other time when, Justice Fisher was talking about the matter and how it has become a public interest matter based on the fact that the status of Dr. Samura Kamara has changed. He was a citizen, a senior citizen when he was charged, and now he's the flag bearer of a political party. With your experience in matters like this, and we are like 90 days to the election, what does it mean to the electioneering process, the cycle, and as well as the courts, the judiciary itself, being independent?
Honestly, I don't know what it means in the sense that, yes, it's personality. But you see, generally, the principle of law is that you're innocent until you're proved guilty. It's not because somebody's involved, therefore that person is guilty. We have to be very careful. And the judge also was very careful. The fact that they've shown us the building is, to me, it's neither here nor there, because I would have liked to know what was the status of this building. But if we're not careful, we might read too much into the case because it's a flag bearer. That doesn't mean that you've done something wrong. We have to be very careful. That's what I'm saying. Yes, somebody has been charged, but the question I've asked you is look at the transcript and see whether he's been the only man who has been involved in this case with money.
But he's the one indicted. He's the one in court. He's the one of that status that is in court.
Well, you've asked me a question, I've answered you back. Of course he's the one indicted. Well, it's up to them to charge who they want to charge. Yes, you're right. He's the one indicted. But I'm looking at it from a wider perspective.
The judge.
That's why I have done 50 years at the bar. Some of my colleagues, they are probably 20, 25. When I'm looking at a case like that, I look at it from a holistic angle. Was he the only one who was involved with money? You go and look at the records.
So in your own perception and based on what you know, you think he's not the only one that could have been indicted?
From what I've heard. Oh yes, from what I've heard. From what I've heard from the case. There are one or two other names. Go and check the records. Why they were not charged, I don't know. I have nothing to lose, man. I have nothing to gain or lose. I've been 50 years in this game. I know they take sides. But was he the only one?
So his party has been saying this is like going after him. Do you believe in that?
I'm not involved in that. I don't.
No, I'm asking because you're saying there are other people who could have been charged, who could have been indicted, and have not been indicted.
Yes. So the prosecution has a discretion to charge who they want to charge. We call it prosecutorial discretion. These matters have not yet ended. This is just the beginning. They still have the Court of Appeal. They still have the Supreme Court. We don't know where this matter will end.
Did Justice Fisher, in his judgment or order, the order he gave recently, ask that all those who've traveled should ensure that they return to Freetown before the first, and they should hand over their traveling documents as well. And I was asking you about the impact of this case on possibly the elections and campaigns, having in mind that it's 90 days. And Dr. Samura Kamara is a flag bearer. He'll be handing over his traveling documents as well. And he's a flag bearer who possibly will want to go and campaign. The exigency of time and this matter.
Well, obviously it will go against him. It will suffer because of time, definitely. In time he has to campaign. But to me, if you have a good record, and if, for example, if he's acquitted and discharged, that could help him. But if he's not acquitted and discharged, then that could be serious. So it depends on how the case goes against him. Okay. It depends on how the case goes.
You made mention.
The thing is, I think we've been delaying. This is the other thing. We've delayed too much in some of these cases. the time. Cases like this should have been finished long ago. That's my honest view. You don't keep cases like this towards the end. No, people read too much into it, even though the case has been delayed. You know, if I was a judge in that case, I will not keep it to this extent. I'm speaking for myself. I think it's too near. Let's look at justice from a wider perspective. You're talking about the timeline. Yes. I think there was a lot of delays. They had to wait for the ACC to come up with some witnesses. You don't keep, look at case in England. Something happens today. Within 24, 48 hours, somebody's in court. Look, there have been 1 or 2 murders over the last few days. Up to now, they have not charged them. Don't you know we still have delays in our system?
Definitely.
It takes time to charge even a simple case. The file is in the law officers department. We are waiting for the DPP. My friend, I've been long in this game. We have a lot of, we don't try. There's been a lot of improvement in our judiciary, but we still delay cases. We still delay cases.
You know, in terms of the delay you're speaking of, you know, 2 years back, the state of the Chancery compared to now, that's the very delay again, you know, in terms of the dilapidation that would have happened to the building. So again, in terms of the maintenance culture which we are talking about, what would you say in that direction? The lack of maintenance culture?
I don't know if it's lack of maintenance. That's a common disease all over Sierra Leone. Look at some of our buildings falling apart. In the past, 2 areas you get good maintenance was one, Sierra Leone Commercial Bank and Bank of Sierra Leone. When I came home in 72, they had permanent maintenance sections. You never see problems with it. But now, if you look at the electricity building, they've been on it for how long now? Look at the other building. You know, we have a problem with maintenance. That's a general problem. It's not just for this case. We don't, you know, I don't want to say you have to visit other countries, but we can do better. That's all I can say.
I want to ask you generally, Lawyer Gabidon.
I'm trying to be fair. I'm not trying to take sides.